Hi, I'm Michelle Bege with a look at what's happening in Latin America now. But first, our news trivia. What animal found in the Galapagos Island belongs to a species that was considered extinct? We'll have the answer later. Peru is just days away from the runoff for its presidential election, and things are getting down to the wire. According to a recent poll, only 2 percentage points separate right-wing candidate Keiko Fujimori from left-wing candidate Pedro Castillo. Peruvians are tuning in to the last debates to make their final choice. Another poll says 18% of voters are still undecided. As the June 6th voting day approaches, supporters of both candidates took to the streets.
Mayormente la población o la ciudadanía está indecisa en los votos, si votar por Keiko o el voto por Castillo. Hay una duda porque hay incertidumbre en las tradiciones más que todo del partido político de Keiko Fujimori y de Castillo, que es un partido nuevo.
In Mexico, the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine has been approved for emergency use in the country. This comes as the country is seeing a steady decline in cases and a rise in immunity levels. So much so that the government has approved the return of LUCHA LIBRE, Mexico's famous and much-loved wrestling match. The local government authorized 500 people, or 3% occupancy, to attend the first match in the Mexican arena after a year of being closed. And good news for Latin Americans and their health habits, as much of the world battles addiction. The number of world smokers has hit a record. According to a study by the organization The Global Burden of Disease, there were 1.1 billion active smokers in 204 countries in 2019. Latin America, however, was the region with the biggest reduction of tobacco users. In the last decade, Brazil, Colombia, and Costa Rica have been the countries most successful at kicking the habit. Now let's go to Argentina. Joel Richards has more on Argentina's own particular strike.
Hi Michelle. Argentina is famed for its beef. The locals are known for the huge amounts of meat they eat, while the country is also a growing beef exporter, and that's in part because of the increased demand from China. But these two trends have somewhat collided. As exports have grown, Argentines have been eating less meat. The price of meat increased by over 65% annually, so the government has stepped in, banning exports temporarily with the aim of slowing the increase in cost of beef for Argentines, but this has caused a strong reaction from the exporters. This is not a permanent measure. Argentina cannot do without the export dollars, but it remains to be seen if this measure leads to more Argentines firing up their barbecue once again in the near future.
Okay, now let's look at what stories we're following for next week. In a last-minute maneuver, the South American Football Confederation named Brazil as the host of Copa America. This comes after Colombia and Argentina were dropped. The tournament is set to begin on June 13th with the full support of Brazil's government. But some legislators have questioned the decision because of the pandemic. Brazil ranks second in the world when it comes to deaths from COVID-19. This week, Costa Rica became member number 38 of the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. Only 3 other Latin American countries are part of this international body: Colombia, Chile, and Mexico. The organization unites some of the largest economies in the world. Costa Rica is already scheduled to participate in the competitiveness meetings set to begin on June 7th. This is week 5 of Colombia's national strike. According to official sources, 13 people died in street protests last Friday. This occurred in the city of Cali. Now the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights will be sending a group of investigators to look into the more than 60 violent deaths that have resulted during these anti-government rallies. And now the answer to the news trivia. It was A. Officials in Ecuador announced that genetic tests confirmed that this tortoise, found in 2019, is a member of a species thought to have been extinct since 1906. The tortoise was found in the Fernandina Island, which makes up part of the Galapagos. Scientists are gearing up for a second expedition to this uninhabited island. A cool fact, the giant tortoise first arrived in these volcanically formed islands between 3 and 4 million years ago. And that's it for this week. We'll see you again on Latin America Now.